The Dutch didn't build a wall against the sea. They built an entire country behind one. Because without these defenses, much of the Netherlands would still be vulnerable to the ocean. Today, the sea is controlled. But for centuries, the sea kept winning. Every storm carried the same threat. The storm is breaking the coastline. We need to reinforce the dikes now. Activating flood mode. All gates sealing. The problem wasn't one city. It was an entire nation. And solving it would require one of the largest engineering projects in human history. Because before delta works, water could enter from almost everywhere. Every opening was a potential disaster. The sea had too many ways in. Then came 1953. One storm changed everything. The water keeps rising.
Get to the higher ground!
It's too late. It's everywhere. The sea broke through. Decades of work to hold the water back, now lost in a single night. But we are not powerless. More than 800 people lost their lives.
Silence.
A solitary gull cries. Soft breeze. But the real shock came after the flood. Engineers realized the disaster wasn't unusual. It was inevitable. The sea had too many paths into the country. The solution would have to be bigger than any structure the Dutch had ever built. It would have to defend an entire nation. And first, engineers had to answer a terrifying question. How do you stop an entire sea? The obvious answer sounded impossible. Close the sea. Not for a city. For an entire country. The flood exposed a reality the Dutch could no longer ignore. The sea wasn't attacking one city. It was threatening an entire nation. And every opening was another path inland. Closing one wasn't enough. The solution would have to work everywhere. What followed became one of the most ambitious engineering plans ever conceived. Before they could build anything, they first had to understand the sea. Every current, every tide, every meter of seabed. The planning effort alone was enormous. Then came a radical idea. What if the sea could simply be shut out? Not with one barrier. An entire system designed to protect the delta. We control the water, we secure our future. Dams, locks, floodgates, storm barriers. Together, they would become a national shield. So they tested the sea before confronting the sea.
Again.
And again. And again. The results changed everything. The impossible plan was approved. And construction began.
Keep it steady there.
Slowly now, ease it in.
Watch the clearance.
Secure the lines. We're in position. All right, secure the starboard line.
Roger that. Lowering the gate, steady.
Watch the swell, keep it aligned. The scale was almost impossible to comprehend. This is an unprecedented engineering feat. Some waterways were kilometers wide. That scale of engineering is truly impressive. Yet every one of them would have to be controlled. The sea had spent centuries shaping the Netherlands. Now the Dutch were preparing to shape the sea. Approving the plan was difficult. Building it would be far harder. Engineers first had to create places where construction could even begin. They weren't building on land, they were creating it. The sea was still the dominant force here. Every meter forward required enormous effort. Then came the structures that would change everything. Some were so large they looked more like buildings than construction components. And one was never enough. The Dutch needed many of them. Each one was built to challenge the sea itself. But building them was only the beginning. Now they had to move them. The Dutch needed many of them, because a mistake here could affect an entire project. Elevation checks confirmed. We have continuity lock.
Good to go. Lowering sequence initiated.
And now came the critical moment. The sea had to accept a new obstacle. Continuity lock. Controlled ballast operations stabilizing the structure.
Roger that. One structure at a time.
The barrier was beginning to take shape. For the first time, engineers could see the future system emerging. But much of the work remained hidden beneath the surface. The readings are good.
Confirming seals are secure.
Proceeding with the final inspection. Yet they carried the weight of everything above. The sea would test every weakness. So engineers reinforced every vulnerable point. Layer by layer, the sea lost ground. This was no longer a construction project. This was a battle for the very land itself. It was a national transformation. And the largest structures were still to come. The Dutch had spent years building the foundations. Now they would build the machines that could challenge the sea itself. Some of these structures were unlike anything ever attempted in marine engineering. Not walls, not dams. Machines designed to control water on a national scale. The goal was never to stop every tide. The goal was to control when the sea could enter. To do that, engineers needed gates of extraordinary size. Engaging hydraulics, checking structural integrity.
Status green. Proceed with test cycle.
Verified. Gate functions correctly. Keep it steady. Approach is perfect.
Rigging is secure. Engage the lift.
Watch the clearance. Slow and steady wins. Because failure was never an option. The Dutch weren't trying to fight nature. They were trying to manage it. And slowly, a national defense system began to emerge. Not one structure. Not one barrier. A system. A shield protecting an entire country. But the sea would eventually test that shield. And when the storm arrived, everything would be put to the test. Decades of engineering would face the same force that had caused the disaster of 1953. Barrier control to all stations. Begin deployment procedures.
Confirming sequence initiated on all gate segments.
Monitor hydraulic pressure. Ensure full seal across the delta. Then came one of the most extraordinary machines in the entire system. The storm approaches. Prepare the barrier.
Lower the gates now!
Engage the mechanisms. Fast. Slowly. Precisely. Relentlessly. The barriers are locking into place. This is the moment everything was built for. The sea attacked exactly as it always had. But this time, something was different. This time, the sea was stopped. Communities remained safe. Infrastructure remained secure. What had once been vulnerable was now protected. The Dutch didn't defeat nature. They learned how to control its consequences. The sea spent centuries shaping the Netherlands. Then the Dutch began shaping the sea.